If you're watching this video, this is one of those strategies that is going to completely transform the way that you think about Facebook strategy. This is going to go against basically everything that I have publicly shared. And I'm only doing this because it is viable. I'm only doing this because even though it goes against what I usually prescribe to 99% of people, this is a strategy for a specific kind of a brand that can be very, very effective. To execute on this strategy, and I'm going to go through every single detail, you are going to need way more diligence in the ad platform. You're going to need experience in the platform. And if my gut serves me right, there's going to be people that will buy this entire program just for these next upcoming videos that detail out this exact strategy. The core of this, so everyone really understands, is that we are using a strategy that is half manual and half automated. Our normal strategy is leaning heavy to automation, whereas this strategy is leaning heavy to manual oversight. There's a lot more that can go wrong when we are manually doing anything for that matter. In this case specifically, the way that this is set up is it's a robust system that has some fail safes in place. It allows you to test a crap load of creative very, very quickly. And it gives everything a chance, but it doesn't give anything a big chance. So this is something that's been developed by me and my team. This has been battle tested quite a few times now. And like I said, fair warning, this is not for everyone. So who is this for, first off? This is for brands who have either A, extremely high creative volume. I'm talking dozens of new creatives every single week. Dozens every week, not just 1 week, every single week. Or brands that have dozens of new products every single week. That might sound crazy to you, but there's a lot of people out there that run marketplaces. This is very viable for that strategy as well. So if you have the capability to develop a boatload of new creative every single week, I'm going to show you what I call and what I'm naming the shotgun strategy. The reason we call this a shotgun strategy is because we're going to be operating this, as one of my teammates actually, should really give him credit for the name. He calls it the shotgun and the sniper, or the shotgun and the buckshot. The shotgun and the sniper philosophy here is basically one that is actually quite simple to understand. The shotgun and the sniper philosophy is one where we are using a shotgun that spreads all of its shots very wide, but every shot shoots. And then we are taking that sniper to double down very hard on what actually worked the best. This is going to differ drastically from our normal prospecting CBO, which I'm going to get to in just a moment. And it's mostly going to differ drastically because every single piece of creative is going to get a minimum spend. But we are going to be pausing very aggressively with rules sets in place. So our normal setup, which I'll go through every piece of this. Our normal setup is going to be one of which is very algorithm first, meaning Facebook's going to decide what gets spent. Facebook will decide what doesn't get spent. Facebook will decide when to reduce spend. This, on the other hand, is going to be much more focused on us forcing spend, us causing things to, or forcing things to pause when things don't work exactly within a very specific set of parameters. But then us having the know-how, which is the most important part here, of what ads actually deserve to continue to run, and then which ads can we scale from that. So everything I'm going to show you in this video is going to be compared and contrasted to our standard setup. With that said, let's dive right in. I am going to be very detailed on this video, so let's do it. Okay, we are going to start by comparing the original core setup. This is still the recommended setup for most brands. And we're going to compare it to the shotgun sniper strategy. This is so different. Anyway, let's do it. Now, in your normal structure, and if you haven't followed this and haven't watched this before, then there's a full tutorial on this. I also talk about this publicly a lot. This structure is very much focused on algorithmic learning. It is not focused on manual at all. And this is the only time you're ever going to hear me say things like ABO, heavy manual. This is very rare for me. So right off the bat, in the prospecting core campaign here, this is the normal setup, right? We're going to get through the shotgun sniper setup in a second, but the normal setup, your prospecting is always a CBO. And what winds up happening is you add budget into your prospecting campaign, you create new packs of creative, and then the budget gets distributed based on what Facebook thinks is the best. So if ad set number 1, it thinks is the best, it's going to spend 50 times more here than it is down here, right? The core of this strategy is that not necessarily everything gets tested, but because it's in a CBO environment, technically Facebook should be spending against the best. However, what often happens in this kind of a strategy is you overspend on things that shouldn't have spent. This is especially applicable if you are a quick to purchase kind of a product. And that completely gets dissolved in this new strategy. So in the shotgun and sniper strategy, we have a fully different setup, fully different setup. This entire setup that I will go through, don't worry, is based on 3 important pieces: kill switches, scaling options, and budgeting. The kill switches are the most important part of this entire thing. I'm going to take you through an exercise here. We're going to get rid of this section. Just take you through a very important exercise here for this strategy specifically. Now, when you go inside of your own ad account right now, and you go into, let me scroll over here, and you go to your cost pers. Your cost pers are your cost per add to carts, your cost per initiate checkout, and your cost per purchase. What I've done is I've taken them from this account right here, and I'm going to show you them right here. So we have a 91-cent cost per click, an $8.81 cost per add to cart, a $14.88 cost per initiate checkout, $41 cost per purchase, an average order value of $79.22. And then if we divide our average order value divided by our cost per purchase, we get our return on ad spend. For all the sakes of keeping this simple, we're going to pretend in this case that our goal is to hit a 1.92 return on ad spend. Now you might say, well, I want higher or something. Sure, if you want higher, modify your numbers. But for this exercise right here, we're going to treat this as if 1.92 is our standard. As long as we hit a 1.92, we're happy campers. Now, be careful when you modify your numbers, because the reason I'm sticking to my very ugly 1.92 is because I'm not going to modify my numbers. I'm going to take for this strategy what I know my overall ads are able to achieve and what my break-even return on ad spend is. The break-even in this particular account is 1.9. So we're kind of chilling at 1.92, just to keep it very simple. Okay. Why do we care about any of this? We care about this because each of these relationships are significant. Our cost per clicks, our click-through rates, our amount spent, our impressions, our CPMs, our cost per 3-second views, our hook rates, all of the metrics in Facebook, they mean something, but they're often varied heavily. For example, we could have something that goes a little bit more viral that gets way cheaper impressions, but doesn't actually convert anyone. We could have a specific piece of creative that gets a boatload of post shares, high CPMs, very low clicks. Once we get to the initiate checkout, things start to stabilize because we're now talking about site activity. And what we're trying to understand is the ratios between each add to cart to initiate checkout to purchase. And the really easy way that we could identify these ratios is we can say, what's our add to cart to initiate checkout ratio? And literally all we do is we take our add to cart, we divide by our initiate checkout. 59% of people who add to cart checkout or reach checkout. And we can do the same thing for our cost per to our initiate checkout. So we just take our $14.88 divided by our 41. 36% of people for this brand that get to initiate checkout actually make a purchase. Okay. These are very important because they're stable most of the time. Now you might see, changes from this when you're running a sale. You might see, a couple of percentage points here and there go up and down just naturally. But what you mostly don't see is 36 go to 25 or 36 go to 45. You normally see these percentages stay relatively stable, which is why we are considering them significant enough for us to make big changes on in the Facebook platform. So here's how this works. The shotgun and sniper method is all based around killing creative with kill switches based on our cost pers. Okay. I want to just state that again, because if you miss that one sentence, you miss the whole concept. The shotgun and excuse me, I can't say it again, I guess. The shotgun and sniper strategy, tongue twister, is based and formulated around using kill switches from our cost pers, specifically our cost per add to cart, our cost per initiate checkout, and our cost per purchase, to make decisions in the ad platform. Okay. So once you establish these pieces here, what we're going to be creating, I'll get through the structure in a second. What we're going to do, because you got to understand the theory here, what we're doing is we're saying whenever our ads are above this cost per purchase, so if we're paying too much for a cost per add to cart, or too much for a cost per initiate checkout, or too much per cost per purchase, kill it. Kill switch the ad. Until they make it out of what we'll call the mud, until they make it out of the gauntlet, they can get kill switched at any time. In the early days of this strategy, you only want to kill switch based on your initiate checkout and your add to cart. You don't want to kill switch on your cost per purchase too early, because it's going to cost too much money to do so, and I will explain. Next piece we're going to look at is the actual structure of the ad account here. You've probably been used to this setup. CBO, 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 graduate into the scale campaign. The shotgun and sniper approach is only based on new customers, by the way. We don't care about retargeting and retention in this strategy. The old core strategy could just be copy and pasted alongside this. This is purely for new customer acquisition. Within this strategy, every time we have a new round of creative, we are creating a new campaign. So if I have let's just use this example. If I have 3 creatives that I just made today, I just made the creatives literally 2 seconds ago. I make a new campaign right here, and then I put each of those ads into a new ad set on its own. These are independent ad sets. One creative, one ad set, and a campaign that holds it together. Furthermore, this is where things get even more wild. So each of these is ABO. You've probably never heard me say this ever. We have an independent campaign hosting an ABO setup, and each ad set only has one creative. Okay, I want to be very, very clear. This is super freaking important. So key here. ABO campaign. We're setting our budgets individually, which we'll get to on how to set your budgets. Setting budgets individually. One creative per ad set. We're not adding 6 creatives per ad set. Every single new creative gets its own ad set. Every pack that you're used to hearing from me is its own campaign. So if you have white t-shirts, which is what I wrote down here for white tee. If you have a white t-shirt round of creative, you've received 6 new creatives, you're creating one campaign with 6 ad sets, and each of those ad sets has one new piece of creative in it. If you got multiple creatives, guess what? Multiple packs, okay? So you're creating a new pack, which is a new campaign in this case, every single time. So this white tee is not going to be white tee anymore. It's going to be red shoes, right? So we go from white tees and we have red shoes over here. And then the key thing here is, even though this is all ABO, which you might want to say, well, why don't I just add a new creative every single time into here? No, never. Every time you have new creatives, you're always creating a new campaign with new ad sets and new ads. You're never inserting anything. The worst thing you could do is add ads into here, because it completely destroys your scale options, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Okay. First things first, how does this function? What are we even talking about here? So we have a single campaign, multiple ad sets in that campaign. Each are set on a budget equal to the CPA, which we'll get to in a second. The way that this basically functions is if you cannot hit your cost pers, first your cost per add to cart, the ad gets killed, which means the ad set gets killed as well. The same thing would apply for initiate checkout and eventually cost per purchase, but the cost per add to cart is where you start. This is what you want to monitor first. It's the most important thing to understand right off the rip. Okay, let's talk through setting our budgets here. We set our budgets at the ad set level for every single ad set based on either two options here. The ideal scenario, if your high budget, is equal to once your cost per acquisition, because ideally it allows this specific ad to drive at least one conversion every single day. So it gives it one fair shot at driving a conversion. Now, if you can't afford that, if you're like, well, I'm running 55 different creatives and that would be a ridiculous amount of total, total ad spend, total budget, that'd be way too much for me. Then just go down the list under kill switches. So if it's CPA, good. If it's initiate checkout, fine. If it's add to cart, fine. The thing is, even if you set it higher, because of either the rules or just the manual oversight that you're going to put in place here, mostly manual oversight to be honest, you're going to be killing these much earlier. So they're not usually going to run through their full budget every day. You're killing very quickly. So day one that you launch like 50 ads in a strategy like this, it might hurt. It's going to sting. But like after a few new rounds of this, you're really only going to be adding like a couple $100 and killing very quickly. So there's this like give and take, this push and pull that happens with this strategy. So let's say we set our budget here equal to once our initiate checkout target. So if our initiate checkout target is $14.88, then boom, we bring our $14.88 into our budget. And this $14.88 gets applied to every single ad set that we are launching. And then what we are doing on a daily basis, more than a daily basis, to be honest with you, but daily works fine because we only have a $14.88 budget. If we have a $14.88 budget or $15 budget, we're going into the ad account and we're looking for our cost pers. We're looking to see at $8.81, did it drive at least one add to cart? If so, it lives. If not, it gets killed. At $14.88, did it drive at least one initiate checkout? If so, it lives. If not, it gets killed. At $41.24, you get where I'm going. At $41.24, did it drive a purchase? If yes, it lives. If not, it gets killed. These are your kill switches. You could set these up in a few different ways. I for sure recommend doing this manually. Now, you could technically go through automated rules. I'm not even going to entertain automated rules in this video because when you try to scale with automated rules, these kill switches are going to go off way too often and it's a landslide. I'll be honest with you guys. I've tried 100 times. There's ways to do it. You could explore. Maybe it will work in your own specific case, but to give a general way for every single person with all different spend ranges and cost pers, it's going to get messy really quick. So all I really care about for this is that you're going into the ads manager and you're checking, what's my cost per? If so, pause. If so, live. So the next piece that we need to talk about is scaling options here. What happens when things start to live? Why are we even set up in such an odd way? I guess let's go through that first. Why are we set up in this odd way? We're set up in this odd way because everything is getting a shot and then it actually sets us up to scale after. You're going to notice there's no scale campaign, right? There's no place that anything gets graduated to. We're just we have two options for scaling. And they're very simple and they're actually really, really easy for everyone to understand. So the two options for scaling here are either we move the campaign to CBO or we increase the budget of the ad set. Let me show you exactly what I mean. Let's say that these were our two actives, 1 and 2 right here, were our two active campaigns that we're running. They each had 3 ad sets within them, 3 creatives in it. And just for the fun of this, let's say this guy here got killed and this guy here got killed because they didn't meet our cost pers. So now actively in this ad account, I'll draw a line to show the difference. Actively in this ad account, we have 2 ad sets active in the number 1 campaign, and we have, let's go draw a line right here, and we have 2 ad sets active in the number 2 campaign, okay? Option number 1, which we'll showcase in the first campaign here, is going to be one of very simple. We're going to move the ABO to a CBO. When we move this to a CBO, I'll just write CBO here. When we move this to a CBO, now we're sharing the budget across these 2 assets. This is really simple. All this is doing for us is it's now allowing the budget to be distributed moving forward. These have made it through the gauntlet. They made it through the kill switch stage. And because they made it through that stage, now we can let them run free. So there's going to be days when they don't make it through the gauntlet. There's going to be days when they should have gotten killed. There's going to be days when their add to carts are bad, initiate checkouts are bad, and cost per acquisitions are bad. But because they made it through the initial phase, which isn't just once, right? We're looking at this every day for at least 7 days. Because they made it through the initial phase of this, they now have a little bit more wiggle room. They've proven they could do it. Let's see if they can keep doing it. So moving to CBO is option number 1. Moving to an increased budget and not moving to CBO is option number 2. This is even easier, to be honest. Instead of sharing the budget, all you're doing is you're taking your $14.88 and you're increasing your budget by minimums of 25% every single day that it's above your target, or at least it's meeting its cost pers. So if you had a $1,000 budget here, you're going to $1,250. In many cases, you have a $14.88 budget. You're increasing it by roughly 25%. Don't worry about the pennies, just roughly 25%. All this is doing is that you're spending more on existing assets to see if they can continue to scale into their cost pers. There's 2 options that will happen after you increase. After you increase, if your cost pers are continued to be met, keep spending more. If your cost pers are not met, spend less. It's literally as simple as that. I'm not going to sugarcoat this in any way. This strategy is so painfully hard to manage because you are always going in and you're always adjusting budgets. Now, the thing that you need to avoid doing is adjusting budgets on very short windows of time. You're not just judging on yesterday. You're always starting to judge, I should say, not always. You're starting to judge on longer and longer windows of time. Your goal of all of this is to try to get a creative through the gauntlet, proven that it could drive your add to carts, your initiate checkouts, and your cost per purchases for you, and to let it run as free as possible after that. Now you might ask yourself, why the heck would I do this? This sounds like a pain in the butt. Yeah, it is. It's a huge pain in the you know what. It's a huge, incredibly hard thing to manage. It is extremely time consuming. It's a big pain to manage. Just keep it as simple as that. But the reason that it works very well for high creative volume brands is because you are cutting so much fat so early. You're not allowing Facebook to do anything that doesn't meet your cost pers or your goals. The downside to a strategy like this is that you're going to cut things sometimes a little too early. You're going to use those kill switches too early sometimes when you should have given it more time. The reality of all of this stuff is that any strategy that's as manual as this, you're going to make issues. You're going to have issues sometimes. You're going to make errors sometimes. You just have to push those errors aside. I know it sounds wild, but you just have to push those errors aside and just keep on going with the strategy. Keep on keeping on. Keep following your kill switches and scaling by either moving into CBOs and or increasing budgets. If you do this at scale, what you might look like eventually is an account that has, no joke, 100 plus campaigns active at the same time, many of which have 1 active ad set, some of which have 9 active ad sets. The key of this in time is that you're building a system that is always meeting your goals through a very robust, very, very strict kill switch system in place. Okay, this is the key fundamental setup for the shotgun and sniper strategy. There's also one more important thing that you need to know with this strategy. Just like in our core setup, just like we set up over here, we always want to make sure we're putting proper exclusions on all of our campaigns. We have all exclusions for retargeting, all exclusions for existing customers. We need this to be new customer focused only. And just as I mentioned a few other times in multiple videos here, and there's a reason I stuck this video all the way at the end of this entire program. Just like I mentioned multiple times, your attribution settings might have to be messed around with here. You might need incremental attribution to do this effectively. You might need 7-day click only or 1-day click only. Because if you're judging this on very tight windows, you need to use those proper attribution windows to make your judgments. And if you're doing that, then that means when you go into your ad account and you're finding out your cost pers, don't look at your 7-day click, 1-day view cost per. Go into your ad account, go to your incremental attribution, and get your updated cost per. So you can see my add to cart goes from 881 to 10. My initiate chart goes from 1488 to 1771, from 41 to 50, right? It's big jumps. We need to make sure that we're matching attribution in all cases. Because if you try to set this at 1-day click or incremental attribution, and you're judging yourself on 7-day click, 1-day view, nothing's ever going to get by. Everything's going to get killed. Critical part of this. And as I mentioned at the front here, this is for high creative volume only. This is not the preferred strategy in many cases, but let me tell you something exciting. If you have high creative volume, this thing rips. You are shutting things down so quickly, way quicker than Facebook would. You're always finding creatives. You're constantly churning creatives, but you're finding creatives that are meeting your cost per acquisition acceptable ranges. And then you're just simply spending more on those best creatives. This is a killer strategy. And I know I'm going to get a lot of questions about this one, but I really hope that some people take this, run with it, because this is a Q4 killer, especially.